All right, let's jump into Exodus 13. The plagues are done, Pharaoh has finally let the people go, and a whole nation is taking its very first steps out of centuries of slavery. But this chapter, it's not just about walking away from Egypt. It's really about how you start walking with God. I mean, just try to put yourself there for a second. For 400 years, your family has known nothing but bondage. And now you're walking out, free. The dust is still settling from this mind-blowing miracle. But God, He knows us. He knows how quickly we forget. So His first order of business, it's not about creating a government or an army. It's about memory. So God's very first instructions for this brand new free nation are all about creating this culture of remembrance. He's weaving the story of their rescue right into the fabric of their daily lives, making sure that what He did for them would never, ever be forgotten. And what's so fascinating is where He starts, not with some big formal declaration, but with something you do every single day: eating. The very first law for a free people is about food. It's this brilliant, tangible teaching tool that's built right into their lives.
He gives them the Feast of Unleavened Bread. For a whole week, no leaven, the yeast that makes bread get all puffy. It was a physical reminder that they had to leave Egypt in such a crazy hurry, they couldn't even wait for their bread to rise. And here's the crucial part. God tells them, you will explain to your children why you do this. This wasn't just supposed to be a private memory. It was designed from the ground up to be a legacy, passed from parent to child, generation after generation. Every rule, every ritual, it was all meant to point back to this one central truth you see right here. It was by strength of hand that the Lord brought them out. Their freedom wasn't some political deal or just a lucky break. Nope, it was a direct, powerful, miraculous act of God. Okay, so the next command, it builds on this same idea, but it goes even deeper. It connects their freedom directly to that terrifying final plague that finally broke Pharaoh's will, reminding them what their redemption really cost. Now, to get this, we really need to understand this word, consecrate. It's way more than just a dedication. It means to make something holy, to set it apart for God's exclusive use. It means it belongs to Him in a very special, sacred way. So God declares that every firstborn male of people and of animals now belongs to Him. Why? It's a living memorial of the Passover night. While the firstborn in Egypt were struck down, God passed over and saved the Israelite firstborn. So this law, it becomes this constant living reminder of that salvation. It was supposed to be a sign on their hand, impacting what they did, and a symbol on their forehead, shaping how they thought about everything. By setting apart their first and their best for God, they were emitting this huge truth year after year. Our lives are not our own. We were redeemed. We were literally bought with a price. It's an act of worship that just overflows from gratitude. All right, so they have their commands for remembering the past. That's settled. But what about the here and now? They're a giant crowd of people. Out in the middle of the desert, they have to move forward. The big question is, which way do they go? Now, if you looked at a map, the most logical route, the absolute fastest way to get to the Promised Land was this road that went right along the coast. But there was a big problem. It was called the Way of the Philistines, and it was basically a highway straight through enemy territory. And God, in His incredible wisdom, He knew His people. Let's be honest, they were former slaves, not a battle-hardened army. He knew if they faced a huge war right out of the gate, fear would take over and they'd want to run right back to the slavery they knew. So what does He do? He doesn't just give them a map with a detour. Oh no. He does something so much more personal, so much more amazing. He becomes their guide Himself.
And this is just, wow. God literally shows up in a way they can see and follow. During the day, there's this massive pillar of cloud leading the way, probably giving them some much-needed shade from that brutal desert sun. And then at night, that same cloud transforms into a pillar of fire, giving them light to travel and warmth on the cold.
This was their GPS, their bodyguard, and their constant reassurance all rolled into one. They never had to wonder if they were lost. They never had to doubt for a second if God was actually with them. All they had to do was look up and follow. And the chapter ends with this beautiful, beautiful promise of God's faithfulness. This wasn't just a one-time thing. It never left. For 40 years in that wilderness, God's visible, guiding presence was with them, every single step of the way.
So when you pull it all together, this chapter really weaves together two powerful ideas: the absolute need to look back and remember, and the deep, deep comfort of looking forward with God's guidance.
So what's the takeaway for us?
Well, it teaches us that remembering is an active thing we have to build into our lives. It shows us that because God has redeemed us, our lives are consecrated, they're set apart for Him. And maybe most beautifully, it promises that the very same God who saves us from our past is the one who faithfully guides us into our future. His presence, truly, is all we need.
And that kind of leaves us with one final thought. For Israel, their guide was a pillar of fire in the sky. You couldn't miss it. For us today, His guidance might look different. Maybe it's through His word, through prayer, through wise counsel from others, but the promise that He will guide us is exactly the same. The question for us to really think about is, are we looking for it?